Hello there and welcome to howdoihomeschool.com. Today we're going to be talking to my mum about how many hours a day it took for her to homeschool, how long it takes to homeschool, and then we're going to chat a little bit afterwards about, I guess, the schedule, what was that like, and yeah, we'll just get a little bit of wisdom from my amazing homeschool mother. So how long did it actually take you to homeschool? How long? So we had book work, then we'd sit down and do that at the kitchen table every day. How long did that take? And would you do a 4-day, 5-day school week? Well, what did your weekly routine look like?
From memory, I think like we spend the morning formal work and the afternoon was more like practical, hands-on, fun work. Like the morning was the 3 hours.
Okay. And we would go down, for context sake, I remember we would travel down to Canberra. And back in those days, you didn't have online homeschooling curriculum, so you couldn't just go onto a website and order your materials. You actually had to physically go down to a warehouse. There wasn't any in New South Wales, otherwise we probably would have just gone there. But there was a big warehouse in Canberra and they used to sell Christian homeschooling curriculum, and so we used to travel down there once a year and we would get our homeschool curriculum for the year, and then we would I remember that was a very exciting day. We would be very excited to get it, maybe not down the track when we were learning our mathematics, but on the day it was very exciting. How many hours would it take us a day when, say, in the very earlier years? So I think we would have started maybe year 3. I would have started year 3. So when I was about 8 years old, we would have started. How many hours would it have taken us to do our formal work a day?
Probably like maybe from 9 to 12. But all day you're learning, and we taught you everything that we know. And we even like when you went down to the shops with us, when you went to the bank with us, even the accountant, we even asked say like people like the accountant if you can sit with us and learn everything. And then as you grow up, we asked people if you can go and say things to you, like it's like
a bit of mentoring.
A little bit like this. Yeah. And I remember we were in the bank and we just we opened a ComSec account, and Dad was
so stock trading
was going to trade, and then and Dad was teaching the boys how to do that, and of course teaching you as well. But the boys, they took to it. They liked it, and they were just learning everything. It wasn't a formal education how to trade, how to do the stock trading, but they picked it up. And whatever he was doing on a computer back then. They were the 3 of you were standing there and watching everything. And then Dad, he got a book for you, like a big foolscap book for you to choose your companies, which ones you want, and to watch them every day on a computer, the graphs up and down. You learn to read the graphs and all that. And even like when later on when you were old, like old enough, like maybe about 14, Joshua was, and Dad was at work, and he rang me up and he said, quick, you have to go and sell, a couple of stocks. And I was so nervous, and then he said, call Joshua on the phone. And Joshua, he just went, like this.
And how old was he?
He was about 14.
So he was 14 and he was selling stocks, and this is like thousands of dollars worth of money.
Yeah. We didn't have any brains.
No. What a lot of responsibility for a 14-year-old. How wonderful is that to be able to give it to them? Yeah,
you just learn maturity. You learn to be like adults, the same as adults, like in your mind, but in the same time you have to teach the children not to be proud or to think they are adults. Like there is a balance.
Okay, so probably the answer to the question is, how long does it take, I guess, to homeschool every day? We did have a few hours of, sounds like homeschool work when we were about 8. I'm assuming that increased, Mum. Our hours of academic work increased the older we got. So when I was 15 was probably my last year of formal work, where I was studying correspondence education. How long was it taking me then to do my work? Because obviously probably the homeschool hours increased as I got older. How many hours a day did I work? And were you still cracking the whip when I was 15?
Well, I wasn't cracking the whip, but I was always on your case to you know, just to make sure that you would, you know, sit down and do what you have to do. I can't remember how many hours you done. You would remember that.
I do actually remember for my year 10, I completed everything because I could do it at my own pace. I completed everything in my year 10 in 5 months, Mum. And
that's right.
Yeah, I did it very, very quick. Yes. And I don't remember Mum having to crack the whip because I was doing it so quickly.
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember how much work you done because you were just teaching yourself and you were doing. You were responsible enough. I didn't have to do anything.
My brothers were a little bit different, but so it is sometimes a bit different. But I remember, I do remember sitting down for many, many hours during the day. Probably sometimes a lot of the time 6, 7, 8 hours. I remember doing, and that's how I managed to get it done so quickly. But it was also because I was very interested in knocking it out.
I think you enjoyed it. Yeah.
I did enjoy it. Yeah, I did definitely. And so I think it can really vary on how motivated the child is as to how many hours it takes. Also, what you're studying, I guess.
Yes.
I've noticed that a lot of the traditional education curriculums, I guess the one that looks like, you know, like what you'd find in a public or a private school, they take a lot longer than some more easygoing curriculum packages I've found as well. Well, thanks, Mum. Thanks for joining us today. And thank you for giving us your wisdom.
Sorry.
She's out of the frame. Yeah, and hopefully we will bring Mum in for some more interviews in the future. Thank you so much for listening, and please like, subscribe, comment, and we'll be talking to you next time. Bye.